And yes, let us maybe have 1 minute break, also colleagues online. So we have some technical arrangement, and we also thank you, Mrs. Maika, who had to leave us going straight to the airport. Thank you very much. I think we need to win. Okay. Colleagues, welcome back to everyone here and also online. We are starting our first session with, I think, the winning gender panel. We should get the prize. Lovely women in this panel, full gender balance. So, yeah, now it's men who should fight to get their place in the podium. So our first session will be discussing and hearing experiences from countries, but also international organizations, the financiers, how challenging is to translate the commitments, international commitments of the countries towards, of course, their citizens first, but also towards the international processes. A lot of NDA, each country has worked in developing its NDC. They have developed, some of them, their NAPs. They have also been pursuing to the achievement of the SDG targets. How to translate these commitments on investment opportunities, and from investment opportunity mobilize fund to achieve these objects, these goals. Of course, regulation is one of them, national budget is one of them, private sector also involvement is important. Let's start hearing from this, first of all, from our colleague from World Bank, what countries can do, or what is the experience, what is the spirit, the approach that the debates that is ongoing indeed, because we heard earlier from Micah that it is really challenging to get also private funds to the sector. So we'll start our panel hearing from our colleague from the World Bank, but then we will move to hearing from the countries their experience, and that's also one of the purposes, is to exchange the lessons learned and work together. And I'm really happy again to have not only gender balanced panel, but gender empowered panel. I prefer this one, a gender empowered panel. And I'm also happy to have different continents represented here, from Africa, from Latin America, and from Europe. So I'm really glad also to have this variety. Okay, now with no further ado, let me ask our colleague, let me introduce her first, from the World Bank, Mrs. Yogita Mumsen. I hope, again, I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Yogita is the manager for the World Bank's Water Global Practice, where she manages and leads the Global Solutions Unit and provides strategic direction in delivering cutting-edge technical solution, advice, and global knowledge into implementation, with the aim of supporting operational teams based in the regional units that deliver programs to bank clients. Yogita has managed infrastructure projects with a focus on the water and sanitation and energy sectors worldwide. She has worked extensively on regulation, institutional reform, competition policy, private sector participation, results-based financing, and proper service delivery across the infrastructure sectors, and have several publications in this area. Yogita, can you indeed share with us some of what you had put on your publication? Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the invitation. It's great to be part of this panel, and great to be here at COP speaking on water with you. Very exciting to have yesterday the first Water Day. So this is a session centered around water and climate and finance. And our lead water expert in the bank often says he was trying to understand climate finance and says, well, it's just finance for climate activities. And it's a bit simplistic, obviously, to say it that way. But I think what's important to know, at least how we look at it, is ultimately to unlock public and private financial resources. A lot of the principles are the same or very similar, whether it's climate finance or other sources of finance. So what have we seen as some of the key building blocks? And I'm hoping to just lay some of the foundational issues, because I think our colleagues here will give really interesting examples from what's happening on the ground, and that's really where the lessons are, and that's where we can take the main takeaways. But just to set the framework, some of the foundational issues. Well, Micah touched on some of these already. I'd put the categories sort of into four broad categories. One is the issue of the enabling environment. So getting the policies, institutions, and regulations right. That sounds simple. It's not simple, I think most of us know. And there's no cookie cutter approach. Every context is different. But what's key is if we don't tackle these issues of having transparent, accountable institutions and policies, it makes it very difficult for the different stakeholders to understand the environment they're working in and to react and to really get the best out of everybody. And so having those policies, institutions, and regulations well laid out is really a first. This is an important step, and it doesn't mean you stop everything until that that happens, because we know this takes time. So the key is that this is happening alongside other things that I'll get into. But also related to that sort of enabling policy environment and supporting the sector foundationally is the issue of operational efficiency and the issue of getting our service providers at a certain level of operation so that they are, one, able to use public resources most effectively, and two, possibly eventually able to bring in private resources. Again, this is not easy. We know this. We know this is a long road. But for example, working with water utilities to ensure greatest operational efficiency, reducing non-revenue water, working with irrigators to ensure the most efficient use of water resources by the irrigators. This is about using existing resources most efficiently before we even talk about bringing in new resources. So these would be what I would call the first bucket of foundational issues: policies, institutions, regulations, but also supporting our service providers be most efficient. And the World Bank in this space, for example, has developed toolkits, whether it's the Utilities of the Future toolkit or the Irrigators of the Future toolkit. And these are really ways to work hands-on with the service providers to improve operational efficiency. And that comes with many aspects. That comes with data, supporting on improving data, improving financial management, asset management. So the second would be how to bring in innovation, how to bring in expertise. And I say the private sector, but it's also can be from NGOs, from many different stakeholders, bringing in innovation. And one way that we work on this in the World Bank is through the performance-based contract. Ultimately, we want to ensure that when bringing in, for example, the private sector and the contractual arrangements we found to be most effective and most politically palatable, most politically possible is if you have a performance-based arrangement. And I talked about non-revenue water. So that's one example of something that we've been working on, performance-based contracts for non-revenue water. And this will allow innovation to come into the sector, but it also ensures that scarce public resources are being dispersed when we know that the results are being achieved by the private sector. So mobilizing private expertise in general through results-based, performance-based measures. Third, diversify the financial solutions. So people talk about bonds, they talk about microfinance, different forms of commercial debt to bring into the sector. And again, this is first and foremost, I think what's important is public sector finance being most effectively used. These are the resources we have, the taxes, transfers, tariffs, making sure that, and I think Micah touched on this when she mentioned the detox development, making sure that the public resources are going to where they're needed most. So that's first and foremost. But we know that's not enough. So when bringing in other resources, other sources, because ultimately we want to reach the SDGs sooner. Development can't wait. The women and children girls usually who collect water, they can't wait too long to be able to have sources closer to them, to be able to spend the time doing more productive things. So the question is really about crowding in finance so that we can achieve our goals more quickly, sustainably and more quickly. And that's why we're looking for other sources as well. But when bringing in those other sources, we know they can be costly. So how can we, as the World Bank and other multilaterals, how can we help de-risk? How can we help find solutions which de-risk the sector, the program, the project, so that the financing comes in at a more affordable cost, at a more affordable rate? And then finally, the issue of climate finance. There are many climate finance sources. And Micah mentioned some of them earlier, the Green Climate Fund, GEF. How to help our clients tap these sources, how to help structure programs and projects so that they can attract these sources, how to support in the data and monitoring which are required through the use of these sources. So that would be the fourth pillar, is to help our clients, and our clients in the World Bank are governments, but we work at all levels, local, state, federal, although our interlocutors at the signing level are the ministries of finance and line ministries. So that climate finance, tapping the sources of climate finance and supporting our clients be able to do that, because it's not always so easy, is what I'd say is the fourth pillar. So what are we doing specifically in the World Bank? You may have heard that recently our senior management, new president, senior management, and our board have, the ultimate is still to pass the board, but the preliminary board discussions has put water and climate, water specifically, as one of our top 6 priorities, global challenges in the World Bank Group. And the water global challenge is titled Fast Tracking Water Security and Climate Adaptation and Mitigation. So it's one of the global challenges specifically for water and interlinking water and climate. And what does that mean that the World Bank Group is making, has listed water as one of the top 6 global challenges? This means that there will be extra emphasis across the World Bank Group on water. This means that our clients, our teams will be working even more closely with our clients to find solutions in the water space. So this is a very good development. As many of us know, in the water sector, we've been working hard to elevate the issues of water and climate, and we believe that this is a big step. Last week, the MDBs worked here at COP, made a statement about the commitment to aim to significantly increase support to the water sector. That's also a big step. The MDBs are working more closely together so that we don't duplicate, so that we use some systems we can use across the MDBs. Monitoring would be easier. So this is another step that we're taking at the World Bank Group and across the multilateral development banks, is to work more closely with each other to be able to support our clients, because really we need to use the scarce resources most effectively. So these are some of the steps that we're taking. Ultimately, the proof is in the pudding, and the solution will lie in what our what we can do on the ground at the local community level, and also with our line ministries to support our clients in delivering results. Because, as I mentioned, the time is tight. We have a tough, ambitious program to be able to keep the SDGs on track, and we really need to use all resources most efficiently, crowd in as much innovation, ideas, and resources as possible. And this is going to take working together, communicating, and sharing our experiences and knowledge. And this type of event, this type of panel discussion is exactly where we need to be able to share and learn from each other. So thank you.
No, Yogita, you can stay with us. Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Yogita, for setting the tone, actually, for the urgency to take actions. This is for time to see results. And thank you also. Sorry, there is a background noise, Rami. Thank you. Oh, okay. Perfect. Yeah, we need to do it now, no, not tomorrow. And thank you also for sharing already the pillars that World Bank is working on, and all these sources of finance that we need to look into, from non-revenue and cost-effective management of water, de-risking investments, working on performance-based projects, leveraging funds from climate finance. And it's good to hear also that MDBs make this commitment to increase the finance towards water sector. Let us now hear how this can be done and how this is maybe difficult and what we are doing at country level. And I'm really pleased to have with us colleagues from different countries in the world. And let me first start by introducing our speakers and, again, empowered panel, women panel. We will hear from our colleague from Tanzania, Engineer Mwajuma Waziri, who is the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Water in Tanzania. We'll also hear from Mrs. Gayan Hovsepian, who is the head of the Water Resources Management Department of the Ministry of Environment in Armenia. We have colleague also from El Salvador. We are happy to have with us Mrs. Jessica LaGuardia, who is the head of climate change unit at the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources in El Salvador. And last but not least, Mrs. Tahani Sirit, who is our colleague from Egypt, who is the Minister's Assistant for International Cooperation at the Ministry of Water, Resources and Irrigation in Egypt. So we heard that action is today. We heard that we have the different sources that we can tap in. But I think the first step is also about planning, having the right framework for investment planning. So we would like to hear from you if you can share with us some of the effort, frameworks, initiatives that you are doing in your countries to improve the planning for investment, to provide this framework for your different interlocutor, also donors, so we can know what we are doing, where we are going to find for any finance. Any lessons also that you can share with us. And let me invite Mrs. Mwajuma Wajira, to share with us experience from Tanzania.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I want to thank you for getting me a seat in this important session. Indeed, we have many good documents and good plans and program, good strategies, initiative and commitment. As my colleague from World Bank saying, we need to have a transparency, accountable institutional policies. We in Tanzania, as a Ministry of Water, we have seen this issue of the financing is a big challenge, and we started preparing, making sure our documents and planning is proper to align with climate, to align water and climate issues. So our policies now is focused more in engaging private sectors. We know that the government alone using public financing is not possible to deal with this adaptation financing and mitigation financing to align with climate. The second and very important stage is translating action from the papers to the ground and to transform people's well-being. That is what matters. You can have a good plan, you can have everything, but the problem is how you take those plans and action into the ground. So experience from Tanzania of turning plan into reality, we have established also National Water Fund. Instead of depending on public, private, this donor fund is, which is concessional loans from different donors, but also we, as colleague there in the opening session, Mikey told us the lesson learned from the Netherlands that they have a water utility banks in order also to help in financing different projects. So also, we as a Ministry of Water in Tanzania, by observing this, we also established a National Water Fund with reliable and reinforced the source of fund for implementation of water projects. The National Water Fund now is more than 5 years old and has enabled tremendous progress in coverage of water supplies in the country. Since the agenda of the day is transformative climate financing, and I mentioned that we have aligned our policies to encourage more private sectors and investors to come, I want to welcome you to work with Tanzania National Water Fund in order to enhance implementation of water and climate projects. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this is a rich experience, and you are already looking to many diverse sources of finance, and you are doing a lot on the ground. Let us hear now from our colleague from Armenia, what is being happening in Armenia. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me here in the panel. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And I would like to inform you what we do now in Armenia. Government has adopted the resolution in 2022 for a program for adaptation of climate change in the water sphere for 5 years, 2020-2026. And that program, we have a lot of, about 26 measures, how to implement, some of course, we have a financial support because we cannot implement that in framework only for state budget. But not only financial support, we need international experts, because it is new for us. There are some measures that we did not yet, and we need that because we need a forecasting system, observation system. We need modernization of hydrological station, because if we want to do something, we need data, and we don't have such a data. We need a data management. We do some measures also in framework of international projects, donor organizations. I would like to tell you about what kind of water management do in Armenia. It's integrated water management. At this moment, we are developing the basin management plans. So we have 6 basin management area in Armenia. And also that management plans also have measures. We are developing for 60 years and should and they have measures of how we implement during the 60 years. I will tell you about the measure that the wastewater treatment plants, also standards for irrigation water, standards for wastewaters. We don't have now, and also for that, also we have some help for donor organizations. We do a lot of works in the sphere of water and the climate change, but the help donor organization will help us to achieve that goals on 2026, because we have adaptation plan for 5 years. Thank you. If you have questions, I will answer. Thank you.
Absolutely, we will definitely have questions for not only me, but I'm sure colleagues also. Thank you very much, because you also started to giving us appetite to the questions on challenges and how we actually need to overcome these challenges. But before going to this question, I would like to ask Jessica to hear from far country from here, the other side of the world, El Salvador, what is being done for the water investment planning, frameworks, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, first of all, for having us here and share El Salvador's experience on water management. Well, for those of you who don't know, El Salvador is in Central America. It's one of the most vulnerable regions in the world to climate change, and we're hit by drought, by extreme weather events, but with high temperatures, and all this impacts our water sector, right? even our climate scenarios for our country are not really promising. We are expecting increases of temperature, especially in the coastal areas, rainfall reductions, and general reduction of relative humidity, and decreases in evaporation due to less water. So in this context, we had to define our water challenges and needs in our NDCs, right? So our NDCs integrate water resources, the water resources agenda in the adaptation priorities by incorporating actions and activities, integrating all the social and economic sectors, human, natural systems in the solutions of climate change for the water sector, as well as implementing circular economy approach and sanitation and waste management to impact and help our water bodies, right? So all these of integrating the water needs into the NDCs, I think was really important because it's incorporating it in our national strategies and priorities. That helps us sit down with investors, with cooperation agencies, and tell them these water sector needs are part of our needs, of our priorities. And we also incorporated the water sector needs into the National Climate Change Plan, our NDCs. We also approved General Law on Water Resources in 2021, and that established the access of water and quality as a human right in our country. So that would also help us as part of our national frameworks and laws and water regulations to help us access funds, right, to developing all these frameworks. But also in our NDCs, we translated those big strategic lines into action plans. So we went into establishing what kind of strategic actions we needed to do to comply and achieve those NDCs. And we translated afterwards into a financial catalog of climate needs. So that would it's like a portfolio of climate needs of the country, of the different sectors, including water sectors. And I think having defined and established those needs, it was a big step for us because it also helps us quantify and identify those needs. And we recently also launched the Climate Finance Roundtable in September of this year. It is a governance space to define like the effective mechanisms and have like a collaborative space with different institutions. We have the Ministry of Finance being the leader of this roundtable. The Ministry of Environment is also part of this table, and also the Central Bank, the Commerce and Investment Secretariat, the Salvadoran Cooperation Agency, and the Ministry of Economy are part of this roundtable. And so I believe establishing these institutional arrangements for talking, for discussing, to opening the dialogue of those needs is also important as part of how to channel those financial resources into the different water sector needs. This roundtable has defined among its responsibilities to identify those resources necessary to implement climate action. Also, part of the roundtable functions would be to identify the finance gaps, like to understand also what is actually. Right now we have the gap in NDCs, but there could be more, like not only climate related, but also broader needs in the water sector. So they should also be identifying that and channeling or identifying those channels to obtain public and private funds, because also incorporating the finance ministry is very strategic for us, because we're not only talking about cooperation agencies, but also a more broader and more stronger finance options, right? Bonds or even loans, right? That could be channeled to those needs. So we also need to, but part of those responsibilities also is of this roundtable is to also work on the capacities, building capacities, because most of these actors that are part of the roundtable are not engaged in climate change or water sector needs, right? So they also need to learn a little bit on what is climate change, or what are the needs, or does it affect the economy, how we can also include it in our budget, etc. The financial MRV that we need to report to the convention. So there's also a capacity building needs in this other economic and finance actors of the nation, right? So that is also part of that, and we try to tap into different sources, financial sources, for us. For example, the carbon markets, that's a new topic for us. We are trying to see how we enter that, how the country can engage into this opportunity, or how we can regulate, or what conditions do we need to have in our countries, in my country, to enter that market and get those funds to finance climate needs. So that's also another thing we're getting into, like having we managed to get some funds to start a regulation, a carbon market regulation. So I think that's part of what the process we're starting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Really, I'm thrilled, because usually mainstreaming water in climate plans and then in finance plan is a major challenge. And I'm really happy to hear that there are voices for water outside the water. I mean, you are talking and like defending the water sector, maybe even more than the water people themselves. So this is very exciting, and a lot of, indeed, the possibilities that you raise, including the carbon market, these innovative solutions. We will be discussing them later in the afternoon, and it will be great also to hear more in details later. If you will be able to stay with us on these possibilities. Now, let us go back to Africa and go to Egypt and hear from our colleague and friend Tahani what is being done also in Egypt to translate the commitments in investments and also to advocate for finance for water sector. Tahani, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for the great panel. Sorry, I heard a lot. And I learned a lot from the World Bank and from my colleagues. Egypt is a little bit special case because it's depending almost totally on waters coming from outside of the borders. So this is a first challenge. A second challenge, that our vulnerability to climate change comes also from many directions. First of all, we have the sea level rise in the Mediterranean and the saltwater intrusion, and all the socio-economic impacts that are related to that. This is from one direction. And because of the high dependency ratio from coming from waters from the origins, so from the upstream, you cannot, until now, apprehend correctly. There is a huge uncertainty whether we're expecting floods or droughts. And we have to be ready for both, because what will be coming from the upstream, we have to deal with. So this is a challenge that we needed to face. Moreover, we have also our resources are not sufficient for our users. We have more than 21 billion cubic meters of gap between the resources and the available water, the resources and the needs. And how we fill this gap? By reuse. We reuse once, twice, and sometimes 3 times before disposing the water to the Mediterranean. And this is also another challenge. So we need to be ready for all of these challenges. And this is why we have a national water resource plan. It was from 2017 to 2037. And we have also a strategy, 50-year strategy, which is always updated secretly, not secretly, but not, we don't divulgate every, because things keep changing. And you have to change with the new position, the new circumstances. So the plans are there. With regard to finance, we put, for example, the last 5 years, we had $10 billion for the water sector, which is big vis-a-vis our resources, financial resources, I mean. Moreover, especially climate change, we do a lot, actually. If you have attended with us COP27 last year, where water had made a breakthrough, I believe that having Paris Agreement without a single water word and then having in the cover decisions water there, that was very important. We have also launched an initiative called AWARE, which is Action for Water Adaptation and Resilience. This initiative is a global initiative, but focused on Africa. And it has 6 work streams. One of them is a very important work stream, not only for Egypt, but also for Africa. It's on capacity building. And from that, we have used one of our regional training centers. It's a Category 2 center, UNESCO Category 2 center, to be what we call now PACWA, which is the Pan-African Center for Water Adaptation. And from that point, because we needed to have some low-hanging fruits to move on. Otherwise, initiatives start and die, and nothing happens. So at least to build the capacities of not only Egyptian professionals, but also African professions as well. And it has started whatever we can take from the sector, from the donors. We produce projects, programs, and we share not only Egyptian technicians, but also African ones. This is from one side. Regarding funding the projects, we have also a GCF project, which is Integrated Coastal Zone Management Project, using nature-based solution to protect the North Coast, and we are looking for more. I'm sorry I'm being long, but I wanted to share with you everything.
Thank you very much, Tahani. I mean, you are also touching upon even another dimension on how to enhance this cooperation indeed between different countries and different continents to be able to meet these challenges and overcome, the challenges and meet the goals. Again, let me go back indeed to the challenges, and let me still stay in Africa, but in another part of Africa. You brought different dimension in the debates, each one of you, starting, of course, because that challenges are different, the context is different, the water needs are different. And you all started already saying where we can tap in, etc. But let me focus on some of the elements that you brought. It's about challenges. I mean, our colleague from World Bank already expressed a big shared with us an overview of possibilities, where we can tap in, what we can improve, etc. You already discussed how this can be translated, how we can do it at national level, all the efforts that you are doing, all what you are trying. But I want us to focus maybe on the challenges, because what we want to open then, how to make these opportunities, as Alex said earlier. We don't want to put any more the focus on only challenges. What are the major challenges that are preventing maybe you from mobilizing these different resources of finance? What we can do, how we can improve maybe the enabling environment, how we do to attract more investors. You mentioned also the capacity challenge, and you already, Tahani, shared some of the possibility how we can or try to overcome. What else we can do? And let me start with our colleague from Tanzania, maybe to reflect on this question, please.
Thank you very much. On Tanzanian side, there is, as mentioned, there is a lot of challenges, and one of them is issue of capacity building. Since we started this discussion, which it falls in engineering and technologies. Those challenges can be addressed to make sure we encourage proper awareness to our community, because when you are talking about climate change, we have to start not at high level. We are supposed to start at the low level. The community engagement, making sure to understand this climate, how it looks like, what its impacts and so on. And then after knowing, one by one, we could aggregate from the local to the national and then to the global. So awareness creation is very key. That's how we can address. But this engineering and design, when we come to technicality now, we have to integrate this project designing that have a multiple impact and multiple actors from working on silos while addressing the same challenges, instead of government and non-state actors working together in order to optimize the resources. We understand the resources not enough, so instead of having one, every sector put its difference, we have to speak, we have to talk and provide a one project so that we can optimize the resource. Also, we need to provide an enabling environment in order to bring stakeholders in financing the water sector. With knowledge on that, as I mentioned earlier, the Tanzania Water Investment Program has indicated 5 sources of fund to us in Tanzania. We have a domestic government revenue, we have development partners, we have climate fund, and we have the private sector and civil society and non-government organization. So without providing proper enabling environment to these people, stakeholders, it will be difficult to get into this climate financing. So that is the 3 points I can make sure for Tanzanian side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us hear from Armenia.
As I mentioned, we have a measure program, and our challenges, we are our measures. We have a water basin management plan. They have also a measure program and also a program for adaptation. There are some measures we should do. One of them I mentioned, like data management. We should have a lot of data due to forecasting. We need observation systems. For that, we need experience, because I mentioned that is new for us. In water basin management, we do analysis forecasting climate change on the water supply and water demand. It is water quantity is a big program for my country, because in this year we have a water scarcity, and we should do drought management, because we use water for irrigation, and this year we don't have enough water for irrigation systems. When we have a problem, financial, we can do at the state framework state budget. We are developing the water basin management plans, or also in framework of international project with EU, with USAID, with ADB, and we need help to implement it, that measures for 5 years, for 6 years. And we do something in the framework of state budget, but it's not enough, I think. We don't have a fund for water in my country. It's a big problem, I think. Maybe we'll think about that, to have a fund. Yes, I hear about my colleagues that they have, yes. And also with state framework state budget, we now do the installation online flow meters in the water intake. We want to do it the framework of state budget, and also with water users. All water users should have online flow meters from 1st January 2024 started. We should do a lot of work in this area, and the water management, and the climate change, and the water together, and maybe with our international colleagues, with our state budget, we should do something. Thank you.
I hope I'm not making everything technical. Is it okay? Thank Thank you. Oof, saved. Thank you very much, Gayan. I'm really happy because already I think the objectives of this session is being achieved. You were inspired from the experience of Tanzania regarding the fund establishment in the country. So this is really good. We are talking about challenges. Again, it's not, we don't want to spend a lot of time on challenges, but we need to know them. But let's look what we can do, what are the different opportunities, possibilities to do them. And I'm now really willing to hear from Jessica again as a non-water, position. I'm a non-water specialist, but I heard earlier you are a very good envoy for the water sector, and you told us about many things that you are doing to mainstream water, to have it really at high attention of the politicians, etc. But let us hear also maybe on some of the challenges maybe that you have met, some of the also successful or maybe less successful experience that we can also get the other countries inspired by. Jessica.
Thank you. Well, yes, in the mobilizing of funds, right, trying to see solutions, I think one of the things we can do is the technical exchanges. In El Salvador is part of the SICA region. It's the Central American Integration Systems, which is like a regional platform. And there is a technical committee on water management. So I think that platform also helps us see and have these interchanges of experiences of other countries in the region, especially those countries that we share some transboundary watersheds. So the regional platforms are also helpful in identifying new solutions. Also, I think one of the challenges, as Armenia said, is the data, right? To have solid information or specialized studies, because the water sector can also get very technical and complex. And when developing proposals to access funds, usually they tell us, okay, so give me the data. How can you prove that what this project will solve the problem? Or how can you justify that this is a climate problem? Because from the climate change unit, we usually tap into climate change funds. So how we make those linkages, how we have this data to prove that. So that is also a challenge, as Armenia said, like, how do we have all this research in place? And sometimes in our countries, we're not really strong in research studies. And I was recently in one event, and they were saying how Central America, the confidence level of many of the IPCC studies is very low because we don't have that much research, unlike other areas like South America, etc. So I think that is one of our challenges, to how we have more investigation and research to have solid financial proposals. So that is one of our challenges. And right now we're trying to monitor or to include in all these climate change MRV systems and NDC systems, all the water sector needs as well, and monitor the NDCs in the water sector. And also one of the things that has helped us was to get together with allies, to have these partnerships to mobilize funds. One of those partners that have worked for us is the NDC partnership, which has a lot of organizations to mobilize funds into the different needs, including the water sector. And one of those we have applied to all the windows in the NDC partnership, and actually one of those needs have been met with the Global Water Partnership. We have access funds for the development of economic instruments for the water governance that will be executed with the Global Water Partnership, and it's about to start its implementation. We have last week we had the kickoff meeting to implement this initiative, and it was accessed through the NDC partnership. So I think trying to look for the allies or partnerships that can help us mobilize those funds is part of that strategy on how to reach and access those funds. And also, I think one of the challenges is this capacity building that I said before, right? How to understand how the climate funds work and how to access them. Well, we hear here in the COP, we hear how it's hard, how they are bureaucratic, all the financial mechanisms, and if it's hard for us as a climate change unit, I cannot imagine how hard and complex it is for other sectors that are not intrinsically related to a climate agenda, right? So that's also a challenge. So that's why there's a lot of awareness, capacity buildings. We try in each of our projects or consultancies that we have, we always try to focus a lot in the capacity building. Like if there's a consultancy, please give us a training on that to our NDC sectors. If we have even energy sector, because energy has this adaptation actions related to water, because we depend a lot of the dams, of the hydro, to make energy, hydroelectrical power. So they have a lot of restoration activities in the watersheds close to the dams. So if we have an energy consultancy, let's have a workshop with all the NDC sectors on that. If we have a carbon markets, let's have a workshop on that. If we have a MRV or a follow sector, we focus a lot in that capacity building, because we know that people come and go also in government, so we need to constantly train them. So that also help us in preparing good, solid projects to present to the financial funds, right? So that's also a challenge to maintain that capacity building ongoing to access funds.
Thank you, Jessica, but I start having the feeling that you are the one who prepared the agenda of today. Because this exact point, again, we will have it in the session from 3 to 4, discussing indeed on how all these partnerships or the capacity building, all support that is needed for the countries to really be able to scale up investments, etc. And you rightly said that working with different organizations can help, but also including all the time these capacity dimensions. It is indeed very difficult for the water people to have this very clear understanding on how to link this to the climate financing processes, etc. Tahani, you already also started sharing with us some of the solutions to overcome some of the challenges, and what has Egypt very strongly and very effectively doing since, but including from last year COP to help the water community to advance on financing further the water sector. What can be doing more? What other challenges that, I mean, we are doing, but definitely we need more. What else, Tahani?
No, the challenges are many. First of all, that many, it has an echo, or is it normal? Okay. Okay.
It's different one here.
Okay. Okay, I don't want to disturb you. Well, of course, we have the problem of some water projects are not bankable, will not give a value of money because many of them are service. If you, for example, our network needs maintenance. When you make maintenance for the network, it takes money and it takes time until you receive the feedback of that. So sometimes we have difficulty in finding funds for the water projects. This is the first thing. The second challenge, I believe, is also how the proposals are written in order to be accepted. Because you can, for example, English is not our native language. So if you want an Egyptian expert to make a project proposal to be accepted, especially for climate funds, it's almost impossible. You have to hire a consultant to make it. And sometimes it's okay, and then sometimes it fails. So also, this is another challenge. What we do, well, we try to do from our possibilities. We contact all the development partners I think, that exists, or at least what I have heard of. The World Bank, of course, the African Development Bank, the Islamic Development Bank, KFW, GIZ, all what you can imagine. And we try to make something together, sometimes with a loan, sometimes with a mixed fund, what they call it, a pool of donors. And we have also in Egypt the Ministry of International Cooperation, which plays a very important role in trying to mobilize funds with donors. Of course, we do so also through the African Development Bank because many of our projects are transboundary. We have the VICMED project, which also has a climate change aspect because we're trying to use navigation for transport and to connect the Nile Basin countries, especially the landlocked countries. So this is also an aspect. So we try to knock all the doors, but the need is higher than the availability. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Tahani. Indeed, the need is still there, and that's why we need to see where, again, we need to invest more to get investment in the water. So that's the objective, again, of what we want to discuss. I know we are short of time, I don't know that we are over time, we are short of time. I'm sure that also audience would like to ask you and react on this. But before opening the floor to the audience, I still have, I would like to hear from you as maybe a final key message that you want to address, because COP28 is qualified to be the moment of truth. The Global Stock Take report is out. We know that we are doing not what is needed, mitigation, adaptation. What message, I mean, we heard from you what you are trying hardly to do, efficiently, successfully to do. We still hear the needs are there. We are looking on to do more. What key message would you like to address to the global community so we can move fast? We have no more time. Let me start with you, Majuma.
Thank you very much. Many have been said in this session, have been discussed, many commitments have been put on the table. One thing remains paramount: fund is required to walk to the talk. The good question may also be, what is COP28 taking home? Is COP28 taking home the loss and damage fund? Is COP28 taking home plans and commitment to climate action? All are well and good. COP28 need to have actions which have impact on the ground now. COP28 need to have water at the center of climate discussion. That is my take-home message. Thank you.
Thank you, Majuma. I want to comment on any of your messages. I would like to hear then from the audience, but please, Gayan, your message to community.
My message from COP28 that we need this investment. We should experience financial support for achievement the goals we in my country related to climate change, water management, and I learned about my colleagues here about how we need a water fund in my country. Yes, it's a good idea. And also I agree that capacity building we need from international experts to teach our specialists how to work with the program, with that measures. A lot of things, I think, we need. Maybe in the next year we do something that we achieve some goals from this experience.
Great, Gayan. I think the call is clear and straightforward and open for all partners. Jessica, your message.
Okay. Well, to progress and have an impact in climate action, it's necessary that we all, both public, private, partnerships, we commit to articulate the financial and technological capabilities to water climate objectives of each of our countries. So it's a work of everyone, right? Not just one ministry or one country, but it's a more global effort. And we look forward to having that support in managing the mobilization of climate finance, because just the management, not only accessing, but managing all these funds, and it's a bit hard for us as developing countries. So we're also looking forward to being an active part of these governance schemes, because we have all these water needs, and it affects directly to the quality of life of population. I think we're talking to the SDGs, to end poverty, and it's directly impacting the lives of the people. So we need to work on it now.
Thank you, Jessica. Tahani.
I have two small messages. Don't lose the momentum that has been gained in 27 in COP27 on water. We have achieved something. We have to continue. Otherwise, it will die again, and we'll need to revive it once again, and it will be very difficult. This is my first message. The second one is also the loss and damage. The loss and damage, we need to move forward in that. It is needed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tahani. Colleagues, any comments, reactions, questions? Yes, Yogita, please.
I have a question for Jessica and a question for Tahani. Jessica, I'd be interested to know how it's been to coordinate across the sectors when preparing your NDC action plans and targets on the water side. How many sectors had to be involved? How are you able to coordinate? And Tahani, I was interested, you said once, twice, sometimes three times reuse. And I was wondering about the energy sources that you use for those systems.
Let me first check if we would have another round of questions. Okay, I think let us go to.
Thank you. Well, at the beginning, it was a bit difficult because the update of the NDC was something new for the sectors. The first NDC we had, it was in 2015, and it was really basic. Like all the world didn't know what was an NDC. It was the Paris Agreement, and then we needed to update in 2020, right? So getting all the institutions and all the sectors to participate was a bit difficult, a little bit rough, especially coming from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we asked all the ministries to designate like our reference in each ministry to work, and at the beginning it was a little bit rough start, right? Many of them were like, "What is this?" They didn't feel they had to be involved. It was something extra, but little by little they have been getting ownership of the process, and now we have like our interinstitutional committee with all these technical counterparts, and they have been they're really active, and they are immobilizing funds. We ask them for them to provide their needs, to present to the NDC partnerships. They have been, we also call them for the LTS preparation that we have all this year. So all these climate change planification strategies that we have been making has been done through this committee, through this interinstitutional committee. And I think we have advanced in these institutional arrangements, right? So we say, it's a slow process. It wasn't that fluid at the beginning. And then after this technical stage, we have to move on to a political stage, right? After we have all these technical workshops with all these reference of the sectors working, then we have to move to a political and have their approval of what their technicians have made. So it's also another stage, but it's easier if their technical referees tell each minister, no, we have been working on this, we have been planning, we have participated, we have provided our inputs, and we have revised all these strategies. So it's easier to get the political approval after all their after the technical revisions have been made by their people. So I think what we have to work on this year is officializing these institutional arrangements, because we have been working at an empirical level, I don't know, empirical, but we don't have like an MOU that says this is the reference, and we need to give a more systematic vision to this, how we have been working. So we have to work on the officializing all this work, so that every, you know, like all the governments, every 5 years, every change of government, we don't lose this the next time we have a change in government. So we can give it a continuous effort and sustained effort. Thank you.
Well, the reuse, it's not a luxury, and we pay, unfortunately, we pay for it. Because, what I mean by reuse here is mixing the drainage water, the agricultural drainage water, with the fresh water, and to put it back in the cycle. We try to use solar power, and we try to use renewable energy whenever. It depends on the place, and it depends also on the available money for that. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of not using energy to make this reuse. So we're paying the price, and we hope that with time we can use renewable energy more, or maybe, and this is what we try to make R&D in, is to try to find a way to use desalination for agriculture. But I think that this needs a lot of time, a lot of research effort in order to make it economic. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all our panelists. Actually, usually we have the key message at the end, but I asked this in purpose because I needed time to digest it and to think a lot about this. And my takeaway messages from what you said is that we need to work together, all sectors, and come together as one force to really meet the needs, the big needs. You all said that these related to people. Water is. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any one of us here need to argue more about water. We need to get inspired from each other and try what other successful countries has done and work together more and more. A lot has been done. COP27, we need not to lose the momentum. We need to build on this. COP28, loss and damage, one more opportunity. Let's not go back home without COP28 bringing us concrete action for the water sector. Thank you very much, my esteemed panelists. Thank you to colleagues who were here with us, colleagues online. I would like to close this session at the same time, inform you that we will have time for 15 minutes to go to a coffee break, and then we will gather again to go again for another important session that already we started discussing here, the team, on how to bridge the investment gap, how to mobilize financing for water and climate resilience from different sources, from also innovative resources that you already touched upon here. Thank you very much, and see you later. Thank you. And I would like to invite all my gender empowered panelists from our panel to take a picture here together. Thank